Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of HR to CHRO, and we have another lady with us, Miss Sulaksha Shetty. She started her career with Godrej, then she was in Saint Gobain, then she started her own HR consultancy. So she has experience of running her own business, then in tech, then Abbott, and then she joined CRI. So one of the first ladies, first CHROs who actually has experience of working in social service, and then she had her own NGO leader, and then she joined Everest Industries, and currently she is in SB Constantia. So thanks for joining us, Sulaksha. Thanks for giving us time. Welcome.
Thanks, Amit, for having me here. Look forward to this discussion.
All right. So to start with, Sulaksha, why HR? Why did you decide to start your career in HR?
It's an interesting story, and I think each one of us during our college days goes through this point of decision making. Aage kya? And that's where I go back to my days in history, where I learned a lot about the leaders and how they would capture one kingdom and grow their empires. And those days, in the late 90s and early 20s, or rather late 90s, there was a lot of growth, economic growth, and a lot of business empires coming up. And I could clearly correlate. Now it's no longer warfare or the kingdoms getting acquired, but it's about business acquisition and growth in the marketplace. And that actually developed an interest in the private sector. So that was a clear focus area. I want to get into private sector. I want to work into the corporate areas, and that's where the time when the concept of MBA had just emerged. Now, when it came to MBA in which specialization? Marketing karu, finance karu, HR karu. So yeah, there's an interesting story behind it. So when I was studying history, I used to read a lot about Shivaji Maharaj and
Okay.
how he created the concept of Swaraj, which was
Mm-hmm.
more of a vision that he had, that he wanted to create Hindavi Swaraj, and the entire movement was with help of a segment of the population called Mawals in the Maharashtra, in the terrains of Maharashtra, the hilly region. And he trained them, he equipped them into warfare. He did not have an army, he did not have trained army. So he actually taught them warfare, considering what was the talent that they had. So Mawars actually knew rock climbing. They were very good in the hilly terrains. And Shivaji's strategy was capturing forts. So he grew his empire by capturing forts. Forts. So it was a very clear correlation in terms of how manpower and a clear vision can help someone grow. And that's when I decided, in case I want to specialize, I would rather work in the human resources side, work on the people side of the organization, because it is end of the day people who build organizations, people who drive organization. And looking back, I think it was a good decision, or the right decision, that I made.
Very nice. So this reminds me all those video games, no, where you build an empire and then you have all these resources. So talent management, having a vision and learning from history and implementing those lessons to building organizations. So I'm sure the organizations you have worked in, you have used all these traits. See, so Laksha, when we talk about reaching CHRO level, only 0.5% people actually reach the CHRO level. So, what has been your secrets of success?
सीक्रेट ऐसे नहीं बोल सकेंगे, but yes, there are certain things. It's a lot of rigor. मतलब, like my son is now running long distance. He's into long distance running and marathon. And one thing which he's 22 years of age, and one thing he keeps repeating is discipline, discipline, discipline. And I think our age, we call ourselves Gen X. What we learned every day, what we followed rigorously was discipline. And he did mention one day that what I have seen, what I observed from you and dad is discipline. You would get up in the morning, manage the household chores, go to work, manage your calls, manage the housework, come back 8:39, but again get up next day morning. So I think there is no substitute for discipline and a
Correct.
routine. Routine can be the exercise routine, routine can be your uh, singing routine, or it can be your work routine. The other areas I feel which are extremely critical and which I think are which has helped me is one is hard work. With discipline comes hard work. So I don't think anywhere in the world for any profession, for any area, there is any substitute for hard work. AI bhi aayega. AI will be a good productivity tool, but hard work will increase further. So I think hard work for sure, there is no substitute. What also has helped me is a couple of other things, self-development. So, and
Okay.
I remember the words of John F. Kennedy in terms of ask not what America has done to the world. Sorry, ask not what the world has done to America, but what America has done to the world. Ask not what the country has done for you, but what you have done for the country.
Correct.
Similarly, when it comes to personal, my learning was why should I depend on the organization to give me growth? I need to develop myself, automatically the doors will open. So,
Correct.
self development and keeping that uh, light on within you is extremely important. And I think that has
Very
been one
powerful.
area which has helped me. Um, there are other multiple things if I can add. One is आजकल हम लोग शार्क टैंक्स के बारे में सुनते हैं because
Correct.
there is a realization of what is a shark tank. But I
Correct.
think in the last 25 years, I've always got attracted to shark tanks,
Okay.
challenging situation,
Okay.
challenging leaders who would challenge you, who would
Mm-hmm.
give you difficult tasks, who will keep you agile and keep driving the best out of you. So I think each one of us have to look out for shark tanks and sharks. It's important for our growth. Similarly, I think what has helped is staying grounded,
Okay.
irrespective of the situation, irrespective of the growth, the recognition,
Mm-hmm.
your ability to successfully close assignments
Mm-hmm.
or tasks. I think most important trait, which I have learned, of course, and my parents have been very, very particular about this in the values they instilled in us was to stay grounded and rooted.
Mm-hmm.
उससे it's very easy. You stay flexible.
Okay.
एक तगड़ा झाड़ होता है
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to movement becomes very
Correct.
very difficult. But if you are flexible, if you are grounded, it's very easy to when there is a rough wind or the weather is rough to adjust.
Correct. Very powerful. Yes.
Yeah. Another important trait which I think at the leadership level, because see, from the junior level till a certain level in leadership, one can through competence, through hard work, through successful projects, you can reach it at a faster pace. But staying at the leadership level and adding value at that level
Mm-hmm.
is very, very challenging and difficult. So here what helps, and that was one of my role models. He had um, once taught me this, or I would say, because you teach through role modeling, so I could observe him and I learned one thing, which is zoom in and zoom out. You should have
Okay.
the ability at the senior level, at the strategic level, to get into details
Mm-hmm.
when the situation demands,
Mm-hmm.
and to get at a macro level, which is zooming out when the situation demands. Too much of detail orientation can mean interfering into your team members' responsibility, not delegating them, micromanaging. But on the other side, if you don't get into details, there would be things which get compromised. And at leadership level, you cannot afford that. So balancing that. Similarly, zooming out. You need to have a macro level view of things, a very broader perspective when you look at the organization goals. So, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why the leadership responsibilities are critical. So I think that ability to zoom in and zoom out has been a good personal tool for me which has helped me in last 25 years.
Very nice. So many insights, Sulaksha. But before I start, I would love to talk on many of them. But before I start that, see, you are one of the few leaders I've been interacting with who is actively or who has been actively into social service. So you worked for CRY and then you started your own NGO, Lead Earth. So I also want to talk about, like you said, that taking up challenging tasks. So if you look at, if you, one looks at your career journey, so you have shifted to different industries, I'm sure, to pick up bigger challenges. But again,
Yeah.
before coming to that, if you could talk about your desire to get into social service, and because earlier, I mean, now the companies have CSR and it's a big growth opportunity to work in the social service also. But few years back, it wasn't like that. It's only now that it has picked up as a good career option. So, what prompted you to get into social service? Because coming from big organizations like Abbott, Saint Gobain, Godrej, getting into social service was again a challenge which you took. So, what was the thought process behind that, and how has this empathy, sense of empathy, getting into social service, how does it help? How has it helped you, and how does it help HR professionals or corporate professionals in general to do their jobs better?
Right.
Thoughts on
So,
that?
two important milestones or two important foundational aspect. Yeah, I was one of the early professionals in the CSR domain. Usually, it's the reverse. You have professionals who have done their social welfare or masters in social work and who moved to HR. In
Correct.
my case, it was slightly reverse. I've done my masters in his HR, and then I went on to take CSR related assignments as an additional responsibility. And I then went on to do my PhD in sustainable development, which is a further expansion of CSR because it focuses on ESG, which is the
Correct.
environment, the social, and the governance factor. So, yeah, the two foundational aspects, one has been, I think my parents have been the greatest teachers here, the way they instilled the values in me, the empathy while working or staying in a community where there was no differentiation in terms of the white collar or blue collar, and respecting individuals the way they are, irrespective of the designation, the income group, or the social background. So I think that comes very naturally given our childhood grooming. And those days there was no concept of inclusion and diversity.
Correct.
So I think it was only what you experience as a kid through observation. And so my father was very actively involved in the banking association, and also with a couple of NGOs when it comes to the some orphanages which his bank was supporting. So I would hear about this aspects right from my childhood, and that was part of my upbringing. But yes, the more professional part of CSR I understood, and I understood more as a core value, is when I started my career with Godrej. And I was very fortunate to work with Godrej, where the focus was to serve. So one of the core values of Godrej was to serve. I have not seen, in fact, any organization where the value is to serve. And the second value was environment.
Mm-hmm.
So every decision making, every aspect of work was based on these values, of which environment tend to serve as an integral part. So we usually talk of honesty, integrity, respect, um, collaboration, innovation. But working in a system where the value is to serve and the value is to look at environment as a stakeholder was something that actually helped me develop a perspective towards CSR and the social sector.
So how does it help? See, nowadays, since 2011, the times have changed a lot, because 2011 is when social media, WhatsApp, I mean, Facebook was there earlier also, but WhatsApp and Instagram, so many other platforms, they emerged. And over the last 10, 15 years, the surge in mental health issues has increased a lot. Traffic is another problem in metros, pollution, shifting from joint family to nuclear families. Again, a depletion in the social support structure which used to be there is contributing. Everything is contributing to this problem of not getting mental support, for example. Now, I've heard or I've read that boards now they want CEOs who are more empathetic or who are more people oriented. So, in your experience, how does this having outlook of social service, of CSR. How has it helped you in your HR journey, and how is it more beneficial for HR people in general, in particular, and corporate professionals in general?
Right. I think what you pointed out is very, very apt and very critical. Empathy at work is extremely important. In fact, my PhD research is around leadership coaching and leadership education on the values of sustainable development. So, which again, from an environment, social, and the governance. So, we need to be sensitive to the community, to the society around us, be it the consumers, the employees, or the community in and around our factories or the larger communities, which includes diversity, inclusion. The environment is the second stakeholder, how sensitive we are towards nature and to the resources that the nature provides us in abundance, or how we uh, our industrial produce goes to the landfills or to the oceans as waste. So the entire foundation of leadership today is no longer just achieving the business objectives in terms of profitability, but it's a triple bottom line. It is profit, people, and planet.
Correct.
So it's very, very important that one develops that sensitivity. And yeah, CSR, as you rightly mentioned, that understanding of the community, understanding the impact that you create at the end user or uh, at the planet level, or at the beneficiaries, be it a woman or the children that you are going to benefit through your CSR initiative, understanding the last mile impact, how it shapes their life, that creates a clarity in terms of how corporate actions can. So, Amit, if you ask me how it has helped me as an HR professional, is um, if I have to look at a measurement, if I have to look at a KPI when it comes to an employee, or how I'm going to create impact for the organization, CSR has given me that understanding. When we look at if I'm spending 5 crores in education, what kind of KPIs I need to look at in terms of my beneficiaries. So if I've identified the young adults in the age group of 12 to 16, and how the education is going to impact this in terms of life skills, in terms of vocational skills, and help them become more employable in the near future. How it is going to support loss of, or I would rather say, how it is going to reverse the migration when
Mhm.
people we see are moving from rural area to
Correct.
cities. So by investing 5 crores in education in and around the communities where your factories are, most corporates are trying to develop the skills so that there is employment which gets generated in and around the rural belt, which stops the reverse migration. So
Correct.
these are very focused areas where CSR teaches you to measure impact over 3 years, and that impact is through um, the culture that you built in, the skills that you inculcate, the measurements or the progress that you evaluate, which is no different from how, as an HR professional, you need to understand how is your employee impacting the productivity, how is the employee generating value for the organization. So, and when we look at 3 year, 5 year horizon, that gives you that clarity.
And I'm sure this also gives you a perspective on looking at employee growth. In 3 years, where would he or she be? How
Yeah,
can the organization or you as an individual help them to grow? Which again, works in a circle. Very nice.
correct.
So,
Yeah.
see, I wanted to start with, but I'll ask it now. So, you also mentioned that you wanted to take challenging tasks. One of your Shark Tank secrets that you mentioned. So, generally, the feeling is that one should stay in a comfort zone. I should not take up challenging tasks because in my workshops, what I've noticed is that people there is an inherent lack of self belief that I may not be able to take up bigger challenges. So why should I take up challenges which I may not be able to, where I may not be able to perform, and people will come to know that I am not good enough. But how important is taking up challenges, like you moved from one industry to another and challenged yourself. How important is to take up challenges if one wants to reach to the top?
Yeah, I wouldn't say from reaching top was the objective, but yes, improving every day was the objective. And when I say improving every day, I have been a big fan of Ayn Rand, and I read a book Fountainhead three times in my lifespan. I think every 15 years is when I take the book and I grow as an individual when I read this book. So it is about excelling or improving yourself. But yeah, challenging situations, it's how you look at the situation. Once you are in the situation, you don't see it's a challenge because for you it's the norm once you are able to build that. But once you come out, you said, oh wow, I did this, and this is not something that usually someone would have done this. So for example, when I decided at the age of 38, I decided to enroll for PhD. I was based out of Bombay. My son was in seventh standard. My daughter was in fourth standard. I was working with a multinational and a huge profile or responsibilities to manage. I selected a college in Delhi. So every Monday, I had to pack my bag Monday morning and attend lectures in Delhi, come back Monday night, work on the assignments that week, and Tuesday to Fridays when I had to go back to work. And on Saturday, Sunday was to take care of the house and the children responsibility. But when I was going through it, I did not realize that it was a challenging situation. I think I loved that experience. I loved the fact that I was doing something different. And this was one opportunity that I had to focus on my dream, which was to do my research work. And I think that made it very simpler. Or to say, when you're inside in the journey, you don't realize that the journey can be challenging. But yeah, when you look back, you realize, wow, you did get into a shark tank, and it was a huge shark
Very
in
nice.
terms of balancing work, life, and your academics.
Very nice. I'll come back to it. But before that, so one industry to another, how challenging was that? Any interesting experiences, challenges that you must have faced, which you would like to share?
Yeah. um, Industry wise, I think that has been a real learning as an HR professional, because I worked with IT, ITES, worked with manufacturing. In manufacturing, I worked in building construction material. I worked, now I'm in packaging. I worked in cement industry. So it's a huge difference when you work for a precision company versus a company which is building steel structures, which is more in terms of high, the skill levels are very different, the labor dynamics are very different. So the learnings have been very simple. The learnings have been, how do you get to the core of the business? How do you understand the work processes? How do you understand the end employee in the organization, what work he does? And how do you understand the PNL of the organization, irrespective of the industry? I think these are the two things that one has to be aware of. And then HR is more or less the same as the employee life cycle, is the HR processes. But once you understand the core process of the organization and you understand how the value gets created, and how do you look at the productivity metrics, or what is your shareholders expectation from the business, that's when you get into understanding the business better and contributing as per the business expectations.
Very
That
nice.
has been critical. And that journey, I think, being agile, because like you mentioned, comfort zone. If I was with Pharma and having worked in Pharma, that would have given me the comfort of understanding that industry and growing in that industry. But yeah, moving from Pharma to CSR or a social sector, from social sector to building construction material, and now to packaging. Every time I look at the shift in the industry, I have to start from zero.
Very nice.
While I understand HR, but I still feel that I'm a student when I start my day one in the new organization, trying to understand what happens at the shop floor and trying to understand what is there in the boardroom. I think these are the two key areas to focus on. I keep my HR hat aside.
Very nice.
The first 15, 20 days, I'm no longer an HR professional or a CHRO. I'm there to learn. I'm there to learn the process on the shop floor or at the customer side when it comes to the throughput. And I'm there to understand the P&L, the board expectation from the management team. I think this has helped me understand and come out of the comfort zone.
Very nice. See, I do these mind programming workshops to improve productivity of leaders and team members from CXO level to entry level. Now, to improve men folk, to improve males, it's very easy. Why am I saying that? Because they waste so much time. Cigarette breaks, coffee breaks, and that at night they'll keep on watching Instagram or social media or web series, whatever. So helping them take out 1, 2, or even 10 hours in a week is not that difficult using mind brain rewiring techniques. But most of the times when I do diagnostics and I'm talking to the female employees and I ask them to describe their entire day schedule, they hardly have any extra time. They are so productive. I mean, so they'll wake up and they'll look after the household things. Even if they have a cook, they have to look for the meals and all, and then they travel and then they do work and then they take care of their kids' studies, for example, and then other household chores. And so somehow I just say that please check if you can take out half an hour during the week to invest in yourself or to work on yourself. But what would be your advice? How can, like, that experience of doing PhD and traveling every day from Mumbai to Delhi, and then again with that young kids, seventh and fourth, so they would need attention also. So nowadays we keep on hearing that time is a problem. I don't have time, especially for girls. And situation for girls has also changed in the last 10 to 20 years. The support structure has grown a lot, both in terms of organization as well as personal. So what would be your advice to young professionals in general and to girls in particular? How can they move ahead in life? How can they do time management better to move ahead in life?
Personally speaking, I've never thought it from that angle. For me, I was an HR professional and I took this responsibility on merits. Never thinking how would I look at it as a woman. If I get married, I had to juggle the family responsibility. But yes, there have been times in my career where I have taken breaks. When my son was born, and those days we had 3 months of maternity leave. And I just didn't feel like going back to work. I wanted to see my son crawl. I wanted to see
Very
him
nice.
take the first steps. So there are such situations as women, but I also saw the other side of it when I went back to work after 8 to 9 months, because that's when I realized now I will be able to manage both. I realized that when I became a mother, I became more mature as an individual. My ability to understand people and look at employees' issues and problems were much different than what it was. I think we as women bring a lot more strength at the organization. And today, like you mentioned, at leadership level, irrespective of HR, finance, marketing, or strategic leadership, we look at sensitivity, empathy, taking responsibilities, juggling multiple tasks, detailing, getting into micro details as well as the macro details. And I think as a woman, we do it the best.
Correct.
So concepts like just in time, concepts like multitasking comes very
Correct.
naturally for a woman. So I think we should leverage on our strengths. We should leverage on what we do at home, the kind of experience we get. How do we build on that at the work? And similarly at work, when we look at delegation, when we look at training and development, engaging our employees, can we follow the similar learnings
Correct.
at home? When it comes to managing a maid, I started a social enterprise where I would train the domestic help, and I have made a couple of them into businesswomen who started their own catering
Very nice.
services. So all that learning happened at home because I taught them to make recipes using YouTube. While initially I would teach them or micromanage them, I realized अगर मैं organization में नहीं कर रही हूँ, I focus on training, skill development. Let me also follow that. For me, retention was equally critical in the organization as well as at home. For me, engaging with the employees and creating accountability was as important at office as at home, ensuring that my kids take responsibility for their homework, for their projects, and for their exams. So I think it's easier if you take the best from both and try to integrate it into your life.
So how come you are so productive, Sulaksha? So what do you do? So what time do you wake up? What time do you sleep? And how do you manage? See, because I myself am feeling inspired by talking to you, that there is so much which can be done, you know. So how come you are so productive? What do you do? How do you become so productive?
I think the first and the most important is being happy and staying happy and to looking at the positive side. So I used to travel a lot. When my there was a time in one of the assignments, I used to travel 15 days a month. We
Okay,
had factories. Even most of my assignments have been with manufacturing companies, and we have factories, 5 to 7 factories, any point of time, pan India basis. So uh, when I travel, and the first thing when you onboard a flight is the air hostess would give you an instruction, or the flight pursuer. In case of oxygen supply, shortfall of oxygen supply, please put on the mask first and then
try
to
to help
your
somebody
kid.
else. Correct.
So I think for us to be more productive, we need to be more happy, we need to be more mentally strong, physically fit, as well as motivated. And that's when we can juggle. And I think then it just opens the world of possibilities.
Very nice. Very powerful.
So one thing for sure I can give you a formula is invest on your weekends. Weekends has to be with your friends. Weekends has to be for something that you would have part of your bucket list. Weekends has to be something with your family, which is not the routine. So I think that creates that energy, or it unleashes the energy which will help you from Monday to Friday.
Very nice. Very nice. Very powerful. So this is the first time I'm hearing that be happy is the secret to be more productive.
Yes.
Very nice. Okay, so see, we also talked about that one of your not the secrets, but you also talked about understanding the core of the business, the core processes. What does the end employee do? The P&L, the value which gets created for the shareholders. And once we understand that as a not only as an HR professional, but as any in any department, it will give us that bigger picture and help us do our job better. See, but now let's say for a young HR professional where he or she has to manage his or her own KPIs and KRAs, and then there are other issues, traffic issues, and time is a problem, and so many other things. So how does that person take out time to know more about the business, more about the other departments, more about the core processes?
There is no formula for this for sure, but I think there is a saying, no, stay thirsty and stay keen always at every walk of life, at every situation in the organization. Staying positive is important. Not wasting time, wasting as in I realized at times there could be self doubt, and there could be too much of detailing into assignments. So or there could be too much of stakeholder management, which I have seen the extremes. Some employees have this tendency to get into too many details and miss the big picture, and that's when at times you may then not see the big picture and realize on the time management aspect of a project. Second is getting into stakeholder management and not focusing on the core data or the material which is required. So I think that ability is very, very important, because end of the day, it is small tasks which add to the larger repository of assignments or initiatives. So you need to understand when to let go. You need to understand when is that I need to collaborate, when I need to take some inputs from others, I need to seek feedback so that my work gets easier and I can do 10 different work. Because, and that's where I connect back to self development. If self development is your focus, automatically you will see कि मुझे ये assignment करना है, not for the assignment, but this is going to help me learn to deliver, to develop that experience which will help me in future. So I think that approach will help release a lot of bandwidth, because I will then go to other people to seek help.
Mm-hmm.
I will look at how differently I can do this task in a shorter period, and the balance time can be released for some other task. So I think it may sound very simple. It's not as simple, but
Correct.
you need to be conscious about it.
Can you give us an example on this, Sulaksha? Where the balancing, the getting into the details also, but also balancing it with looking at the larger picture. Some example where you were able to actually do it and the learnings that you got.
There are multiple assignments, initiatives that you would have rolled out in terms of talent management, or in terms of what a business needs from an HR as part of HR strategy. And I always realize that as a functional head, as an HR professional, I may have 15 years or 20 years of experience and have worked with various industries with the best of the top five, top three consultants, but I still need to collaborate.
Mm-hmm.
I still need to keep my HR hat and understand what my the other CXO or my business partner needs. So अगर मैं वही काम खुद से करूंगी in terms of creating an HR strategy by myself, there could be certain blind spots. There could be areas where I could go wrong, and then again I need to start from beginning. So that's where collaborating, talking to people who are more experienced in that organization or in that industry helps me quickly get that perspective, which otherwise I would have to research and spend 10 hours or benchmark the industry practices. So why go out when your own team members or your colleagues can give you that information? Second is when it comes to detailing, uh, sometimes when in doubt, experiment rather than creating a perfect structure or a Taj Mahal, as I tell my team members. Go out, be ready to experiment at when the project is smaller, at a nascent stage, and then see what's going wrong. So once you test it and you realize कि हाँ यहाँ पे कुछ गड़बड़ है, and this is where I need to focus rather than focusing on the entire structure. So, and when you make that beginning, no, you also learn that वो जो concept of self doubt कि गलत होगा तो क्या, should I spend more time making it more robust? Yes, robustness is important, but robustness won't come while you're getting into details. It will only come when the tire meets the road.
Correct.
So you need to test the tire multiple times and see, and then build it.
Very
Yeah.
nice. So see, to get help from the other departments, so that they give me insight where I don't need to spend time on researching the concept. Why would they do that? Or how do I make them do that? How do I build that trust so that people in the other departments would trust me or would open up?
Yeah.
How do I do that? What is the secret to that?
Very true. I think not easy. And many organizations struggle with that, right? Because uh, the culture of trust and transparency, my goals versus the other goals. How do you align and get common goals? It's easier said than done. But I think that's where the learning orientation and being grounded helps. And that's where I started. Why? What were the secret of my success, or how was I able to achieve? I think keeping the learning orientation on, or being grounded helps when it comes to interpersonal skill and building the trust and credibility. A lot depends on credibility. These are big words, but if I look across, I think it's the personal credibility uh, which is very critical to leadership and leadership success in an organization.
Correct. And nowadays we stay in a world of social media. I mean, it's connected. So what you do in one organization, your reputation travels faster than you would move into the next, the other
Correct.
organization. That people, I mean, it's so easy to find out how was the other person in the last organization. So
Absolutely.
credibility
And
is
also, when we speak to people, I think I can rehearse, I can practice certain things, but all times I cannot keep preparing, right? It has to come from based on your experience and based on your past record. So, and that's why working on multiple assignments gives you that kind of confidence, gives that kind of skills or the competence, and at the same time helps shape that credibility. Because when you speak, it's when the person opposite understands the genuine and the made up approach.
correct. See, we also talked about self-development, Sulaksha, and again, so and this is again one of the very powerful. So when I talk to people in my workshops, that how many of you took a certification course in the last 2 years? I don't think even 5% people would raise their hands. And like you did PhD and so many other things. So how important is self-development, learning new skills like weekends? You said that one should invest in oneself, also with going out with family and friends, etc., but also invest in oneself. How important is regular, continuous investment in oneself and how to go about it?
Yeah. So there is a learning curve, and many people in HR or L&D professionals will relate to this, where the learning curve goes from down and it reaches, it's like a inverted U.
Correct.
It reaches a peak and then it can come down when it comes to learning. So the key in personal development is understanding your learning curve,
Mm-hmm.
starting small,
Mm-hmm.
training yourself in the process of learning, and keep on learning. So it's not just one time learning. So what happens is typically a curve, and this is a curve in economic, this is a curve in business growth. So any product, it will start slow, it will reach its peak, and once you are at the peak, if you don't innovate, if you don't create a new customer segment or new products, there could be a fall. So the key is to know when you are reaching the peak,
Mm-hmm.
should you stay there or should you begin a new learning curve? And this is something that one of my colleagues had shared, and I found it very interesting. So for me, the learning curve is not you, but it is once it reaches the top, again starting a learning curve and then starting a new learning curve from the top. So simple things like you would be surprised, but I'm very proud, or I take pride in sharing this. Is there was a time I loved dancing. When I was in college, I used to be a folk dancer and we used to participate in college festivals. But when I got into corporate life with kids, it was difficult and I had to balance work and personal life. So, but there was a time when I made an effort in my mid 30s that once in a year during Ganpati festival, I will participate in the
Celebration.
social gathering through dance performance. And it was difficult to learn the steps, go for practices, managing the traffic on road, and then coming for practice and then going back home and managing kids ka homework and then next day office. But that act of learning and keeping the steps in your mind and uh, getting it into your muscle memory so that you could perform, it wasn't easy. And I think that was one of the challenging tasks, but I kept on doing it year on year for 5 6 years, and that gave me confidence. So when I enrolled for PhD, I was confident कर सकूंगी.
Very nice.
अगर इतने सालों के बाद I could devote some time for a dance practice and learn something which is not part of my routine activity. I think this was something I was passionate about, the research that I had taken up. So I think keeping the learning drive on, and you can do simple things in life. There was no correlation between sustainable development and dancing, but I think for me it was learning in any form.
Correct. And it helps you prepare for taking up bigger challenges in the career also, not only in the personal life.
Yeah, yeah. It gives you confidence, and small acts gives you that larger confidence.
And also, like you mentioned, that happiness, you are able to juggle so many things because you are mentally happy. So when you are doing this dancing or investing in new things to invest in yourself to improve yourself, it will keep you happy.
Yes,
Very
yes,
powerful.
it's very, very important.
See, one other thing I found very fascinating while interacting with you, Sulaksha, was when you gave the example of Shivaji and your history. So, in from history, you from the knowledge that you had about Shivaji, so how he managed talent, how he identified talent, how he helped them identify their own core strength and the vision, how he imparted the vision to them, and then how he managed the entire thing, which you again used in your HR journey, in your leadership journey. Now, every person, every individual has certain strengths. They have some unique, knowledge about something, or they have some unique strength. How can they have that confidence to use that in their day-to-day work, and which will help them do it better? Some thoughts on that, because I find it very fascinating and very powerful.
Yeah, role modeling is a very good example. I think we have to seek role models. We cannot wait for the organization to identify mentors and coaches. If you want to develop and if you want to practice learning, if you want to build yourself, look at role models. Role models can be, even your maid can be a role model because she comes against all odds. She works, gets up at 5 o'clock, fills water, works at home, and then comes to your place 7 o'clock in the morning so that you can go to work. So you could have a role model on how she is able to juggle tasks in spite of the challenges that she faces. Or you can have role models through in the business world or in the community. And how do you take inspiration from them? So I think getting that outside in perspective is very, very important. Um, that
Some
is something which will clear the self doubt. Many a times we have so many things internal and we try to find answers internally. Rather than that, looking at role model, looking outside and finding solution is important.
very nice. And mentoring, how does mentoring help? Having a mentor?
Uh, Having a mentor helps, but very few organizations will formally give you a mentor. It is up to how you seek mentors. And I always believe, I give example of Mahabharat where there was Arjun had his mentor in Dronacharya, but Eklavya also formed the Murti of Dronacharya and self taught himself. So I think that thirst for a need or the thirst to have a mentor is important, and you will find mentors. I think there are many people who are kind hearted, who want to share their knowledge and wisdom. It's up to you how you want to seek it. And I think mentoring is not a very formal organization initiative for me. Mentoring is something that I go and seek, and that's where each one of us, at irrespective of the age, should be open to mentorship, to that extent of reverse mentoring. And I'm a firm believer of reverse mentoring, where I learn a lot from youngsters, my kids, the management trainees who join.
Very powerful.
Lots of reverse mentoring in today's time, and it's equally powerful.
Very nice. Very powerful. See, this is again a very fascinating example that your mate can be a role model. See, if I look at my life journey, to be honest, there has been a lot of sense of entitlement, and which is there again in today's world also, because youngsters, nuclear families, parents don't have time to spend with the kids, so they try to pamper them, and that sense of entitlement inadvertently gets cultivated in the kids. And so how important is to have that humility and to not have that sense of entitlement for future growth.
um, आजकल तो diversity and inclusion is the inward, right? So diversity inclusion is not just for your LinkedIn or your organization forums. You have to practice it at all stages of life, and you have to live those values. And that's where learning comes across. It could be while you're traveling in a local train, where you see people how they, in spite of all the odds, are able to manage things. I have seen people with special skills or differently able people, how they are able to perform routine day-to-day activities based on the drive and the motivation that they have shown. So you need not attend forums or be part of LinkedIn discussions for practicing diversity and inclusion, you have to live those values. So, as you rightly mentioned, humility is important, and looking out, being open to accepting things and realizing you are a small atom or a small what you
Part of the
say
universe.
particle or a living creature in the entire universe. You are not the universe. Yes, you are the universe when it comes to giving that drive and that motivation, and while addressing self doubt, जो हमारे scriptures में लिखा है, the power is within you. But when it comes to looking at the world, you are just one small molecule.
Very nice. So, how important is spirituality, mental health? You said that being happy is very important to be able to do multitasking and so many other things. So, where does spirituality? Because you have been referring to scriptures and Mahabharata, and so how important is spirituality? And how does, I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about spirituality. So, how to use spirituality for growth?
Yeah, so for me, when I look back at my life journey, I look at three important aspects, and I look at it from a spiritual perspective because for me, dharma has been very, very important. Dharma is the values, the principles that I followed in life. Non-compromise on those principles and values has been the way that was a guiding force for me. Karma was important for me, irrespective of the religious connotation or the professional work related connotations. For me, doing the right act and working hard and doing the right things, irrespective of the hierarchy, irrespective of the challenging situation, I think karma is important, and that's what our scriptures also talk about from a spiritual perspective. The third part for me is prem. So these are the three important things. Prem will be kindness, uh, loving your own soul, your own self, as well as loving others. I think that is extremely, extremely important. So, from a spiritual point of view, if you ask me, when I look back, reflect on my life and what have been the three foundational aspects and how I would want to live my life further is on these three principles. So, yeah, being thankful to the larger power is extremely important, but it's also important to be aware of the fact that you have this lifetime. You are fortunate to be born as human being um, in the times when things are much more easier. And I, being a woman, being born in a city, I think it's a privilege that I have, right? The family that I grew up with. So how do I make the most out of it? I think this lifetime is something that I have to look at the larger aspect.
All right. So, see, again, uh, times have changed. Last 10, 15 years, times have changed a lot. And uh, I mean, you're speaking so eloquently on dharma, the values. And these are not just the something that you hang on the wall. Values are very powerful. So, for a youngster, what values are important, which they should have in a non-compromising way, which will help them reach there. It may look difficult to sustain, to hold on to those values, but some values which you feel are very powerful, which will help the youngsters to reach their career goals faster.
So, Amit, here I will not focus on the work values, usually honesty, respect. These are the values which are norms at the work and in the society. But some of the values which I would recommend that we should inculcate in ourselves. One is resilience. You asked how would one get into challenging task or get into Shark Tank and still come out happy. So it's about resilience. There are times when you work hard and you get a negative feedback, or there are times when you don't get recognized for the work you've done. There are times when you feel lost. So, but what you develop in the process is resilience. So again, next day is an important day and you start it afresh. So I think developing that value or that ability to come up every day the same spirit is very important. While all the days may not be the same, but it's about how we can make it better. So
Correct.
resilience is important. The value of hard work. Again, no corporate will say you have to work hard. I think that is your personal value, discipline and hard work. That is taken for granted in an organization. तो आप आपके कंपनीज के कोर वैल्यूज देखोगे तो उसमें हार्ड वर्क डिसिप्लिन नहीं आएगा, बिकॉज that is something which is very very basic and fundamental. But that is where, Amit, we need to train ourselves. Just as we go to gym and work hard for those 45 minutes, we need to work hard in every aspect of life. There is no substitute for hard work. More important, so while I spoke of resilience and working hard, it's also important to set boundaries and decide at what phase is, while you're working hard, you're resilient, you should also know something when you have to take a step back and say no means no. So it is not just about कि मैं तो
I will work for 30 to 24 hours a day, 20 hours a day. So there has to be some boundary that this is where my limits are. So I
yes,
cannot
where
go
I
long.
have to put my own boundaries and
Correct. So after, let's say, 9 o'clock or after 10 o'clock, I do not appreciate a call from the office to work, for example. I mean,
correct,
you
correct.
can decide on your own boundaries. So see, we have,
Yeah, it could be time, it could be boundaries in terms of if someone speaks to you disrespectfully while you are very positive when it comes to taking feedback, but when it comes to being treated in a disrespectful manner, as long as you don't feel that मेरा सेल्फ एस्टीम या मेरे वैल्यूज को हर्ट हो रहा है, द मोमेंट यू रियलाइज दैट, keep on doing, keep on working, keep on taking feedback, be open to feedback, but there has to be a time one has to decide between self respect and ego. So I think setting boundaries is extremely important.
very nice. So we have been talking for almost an hour, Sulaksha, and there have been so many insights. So apart from this, anything else you would like to convey to the young listeners who would be watching this podcast?
All I would
Think,
want to say is I think we hear a lot of things in terms of growth, being well networked, being smart at work as young professionals, and I learned the same thing. But today, in last 25 years, what I realized is being connected is more important than being networked. And networking is important, yes, but being connected is a lifelong connections that you create, irrespective of the organization, the profession, or the community that you are. So I think develop connections which are more human touch rather than networking. Being authentic versus being smart. Yes, you have to be hardworking. You also need to be smart. But today, you need to be hardworking, smart, and authentic. I think being authentic is much more important. Similarly, being I think there was a pause. Yeah. Similarly, one has to be relevant, staying relevant versus staying updated. We usually say keep on updating your skills. I think beyond that, one has to be relevant in all times, all situations. Again, between growth, I would rather say focus on development than growth. Growth has a limitation. मुझे designation में vice president or president when you're talking from a growth perspective. But when you talk of development, there is no end.
correct.
It's unlimited. So it doesn't restrict to a certain aspect. So I think these are areas that the younger generation, young HR professionals should focus on.
Anything for people at the mid level, Sulaksha?
I think across staying relevant तो हम सबके लिए है. Now that I'm on the moving to the other side of 50, I'm more conscious of how do I stay relevant. Learning तो होता ही है, but I think this is true across.
Correct.
But as middle management, I think they should also learn to give back,
Okay.
because be it in terms of what they learn, sharing, and developing youngsters under them. They may have a team or may not have team under them, but how do they inspire, influence, and groom the next generation? they say when it comes to learning, the best way of learning is by imparting learning.
Correct. Very nice. Very nice. So there have been so many insights. It has been a fascinating session, Sulaksha. In fact, I am feeling inspired after talking to you, and I'm not joking or saying it lightly. Actually, I'm feeling quite impressed, and I'm feeling inspired.
Thanks. That's a valuable feedback. So hope I could add little more to the conversation and keep it engaging for the audience.
Right. Thanks. Thank you, Sulaksha. Thanks for giving us time.
Thanks, Amit. It was nice connecting with you. Thank you.